Ladies and gents, we have said that a woman's NBA star is more important than a Marine veteran that is still being held by the Russian government. And this comes from the person that I am very much aware probably was briefed on what was contraband coming in this country and what was not. It says WNBA star freed in U.S.-Russia prisoner swap. Marine veteran still held. Said the Associated Press. This is what Navy Times is covering, or Military Times. It says Russia freed star Brittney Griner on Thursday in a dramatic high-level prisoner exchange with the U.S. releasing notorious Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout, American officials said. The swap at the time of heightened tensions over Ukraine achieved a top goal for President Joe Biden, carried a heavy price, and left behind an American Marine veteran jailed for nearly 4 years in Russia. Now, this also comes from a WNBA star that said if this was LeBron or any other NBA star, that this would be, an up in arms issue. I understand. I do agree with that because they do bring more entertainment value and obviously more money and more attraction to a specific sport. I respect that. You don't need to talk to me to understand that the NBA versus WNBA factually brings less money in compared to the NBA. And there is more there. However, I would say that the NBA and the people that are looking for the career of LeBron and things like that probably would do a much better job of following rules and regulations as they're traveling internationally, would understand how much of a representative they would be of the culture of the U.S. Hell, do we need to look back? We had Dennis Rodman, the craziest dude that was on the Chicago Bulls during some of the height of their winning. Even afterwards, going over to meet some of the biggest communist people in the world and become best buddies with them, still not get locked up or in trouble, and become an icon over there and still made it back safely. How can you not, Brittney Griner, a person that's kind of just a normal average person, not do that? It says the deal, the second such exchange in 8 months with Russia, procured the release of the most prominent American detained abroad. Griner is a two-time Olympic gold medalist whose months-long imprisonment on drug charges brought unprecedented attention to the population of wrongful detainees. It says Biden's authorization to release a Russian felon, once nicknamed the Merchant of Death, underscored the escalating pressure that this administration faced to get Griner home, particularly after the recent resolution of her criminal case and her subsequent transfer to a penal colony. The swap was confirmed by U.S. officials with direct knowledge of the negotiations, who were not authorized to publicly discuss the deal before the White House announcement and spoke on condition of anonymity. Biden spoke with Griner on the phone Thursday while her wife, Sherelle, was in the Oval Office. The president was to address reporters later in the morning. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I will say, how does this seem almost like a too perfect setup? Like, it has to be. You have someone that's just big enough for people to care about, a person that represents a marginalized community of LGBTQ that could be put out there. Could this just be very strategically placed that this is a political pawn to get this other guy out and put the pressure on the administration to actually do something about this? It just seems too coincidental, right? I feel crazy saying that a little bit, but it's almost like just perfect enough that it makes them have to do something. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It says Russian and U.S. officials had conveyed cautious optimism in recent weeks after months of strained negotiations, with Biden saying in November that he was hopeful that Russia would engage in a deal now that the midterm elections were completed. A top Russian official said last week that the deal is possible before year's end. And I love, like I said, it's very possible there was influence somewhere as they're waiting for the elections to occur. Right? The fact that we're waiting to get an American citizen home is based on an election is hilarious. But it says, even so, the fact that the deal was a one-for-one swap was surprised, given that U.S. officials had for months expressed their determination to bring home both Griner and Paul Whelan, a Michigan corporate secretary, executive, and Marine veteran, jailed in Russia since 2018 on espionage charges that his family and the U.S. government has said are baseless. So, you're saying we have somebody that served in the U.S. military, done more, I would say, arguably, for what represents being American more than Brittney Griner, and has been there longer, and the U.S. government has not made any ploy to it. So is this a level of pandering? Is this something that we're seeing as just a play? Like I'm saying, maybe a marginalized community, maybe WNBA star, maybe this is just enough transaction that's happening here. That is crazy to me that there wouldn't be more negotiations. And, obviously they're not going to show their cards of what the negotiations could be when it comes to getting this Marine back, if that's the case. But it says, in releasing Bout, this is the arms dealer, it says, a U.S. freed a former Soviet Army Lieutenant Colonel whom the Justice Department once described as one of the world's most prolific arms dealers. Bout, whose exploits inspired a Hollywood movie, was serving a 25-year sentence on charges that he conspired to sell tens of millions of dollars in weapons that U.S. officials said were to be used against Americans. So this guy, per intelligence, had weapons to be used against Americans, right? Let's put that in perspective. Then you look at the idea of Brittney Griner and you're like, this person planned to get high, or, whatever illegal substance we're talking about that was going on here. I don't know. Am I nuts? I don't know. It says the Biden administration was ultimately willing to exchange Bout if it meant Griner's freedom. The detention of one of the greatest players in the WNBA history contributed to a swirl of unprecedented public attention for an individual detainee case, not to mention intense pressure on the White House. Griner's arrest in February made her the most high-profile American jailed abroad. Her status as an openly gay black woman locked up in a country where her authorities have been hostile to the LGBTQ community, infused racial, gender, and social dynamics into her legal saga, and made each development a matter of international importance. And I would say, if anything, this is a shine on American culture in comparison to the rest of the world. And it's known. And there have been people that have conspiracies of this is injected in order to create movement within the country itself on so many other factors. And people have talked about that with Kanye and this issue and so many other issues, and talking about how corporate America and these businesses and how they pander to these marginalized communities as well, that has not been a secret. And I think these companies are, and these organizations such as WNBA and things like that, are bound by some form of pressure, just like the U.S. government is. And I don't think that's any secret, and I think most people can agree upon that. Says her case not only brought unprecedented publicity to dozens of Americans wrongfully detained by foreign governments, but also emerged as a major inflection point in U.S.-Russia diplomacy at a time of deteriorating relations prompted by Moscow's war against Ukraine, which is still ongoing. The exchange was carried out despite deteriorating relations between the powers, but the imprisonment of the Americans produced a rare diplomatic opening, yielding the highest level known contact between Washington and Moscow. A phone call between Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, I think is how you say it, in more than 5 months. It says, in an extraordinary move during otherwise secret negotiations, Blinken revealed publicly in July that the U.S. made a substantial proposal to Russia for Griner and Whelan. Though he did not specify the terms, people familiar with it said the U.S. had offered Bout. So when I look at situations like this, these are all influence things that are more important. And what's crazy is I would like to analyze this and say the level of patriotism of a Marine that has served in the U.S. military, which, they have not talked about the espionage because that does maybe dive into some level of secrecy or information that may be classified, etc. But even so, if that's the case, that's what he was doing, in vouching for America in that stance, to that degree and risking his life, I have to sit here and say it's nuts that something so, I would say, patriotic American is not being seen on the same level playing field as a WNBA star, and how that's coming to be. And is this telling of culture? I don't know, and I don't know how this dealing could ever take place, and we will never know. Honestly, I highly believe everything from this situation, how we've exchanged prisoners, is going to be a classified thing until the end of time. But I'd love to know what you guys think about it, because that's kind of my comparison of this patriotism versus this level of newborn culture that's been in America, I'd say only for maybe the past decade. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and who do you think should be the one to engage this or allow this Marine to come home? Is there anybody that you can think of that we have as bargaining power? We don't really hear about these things until this stuff actually happens. So I'd love to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you guys like videos like this, hit me up over on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.